The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now, your hosts, Christy Scales, Aisha Morrison, Nicole Hutchison, and Jess Navarez.
That intro. Let's start with that. Welcome to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Christy Scales, Nicole Hutchison, Aisha Morrison, Jess Navarez here with you at the SWBC Podcast Studios here at the Star in Frisco. Ladies, I wish it wasn't such a somber mood here at the Star in Frisco today because your Dallas Cowboys coming off of a 42-10 loss. We just heard from Mike McCarthy. I wanted to start with some injury updates that we just heard right now from Mike, starting with C.J. Goodwin and Leighton Vander Esch. He said that it is probable that they will land on IR. We'll start there. Christy, what does exactly that mean for these guys? What are the limitations of IR? Let's go over that just one more time for anybody that might not know. What does that mean as far as if they are placed on IR? Rules and regulations.
Yeah, there are a couple of different designations. It could mean you're out for the season, but it could also mean 4 weeks. So, for example, guys like Matt Waletzko and Nashawn Wright starting the season on IR, after 4 weeks, you open a 3-week window in which they could return. So in the old days, IR was the sentence where you are out for the rest of the year. But over the last few years, that has changed. But obviously not good news. And Leighton Vander Esch, with his history of neck injuries going back to 2019, and just the awkward way, that was a horizontal rock'em sock'em robot hit that he took. And it was sort of a friendly fire incident where his head was down and he collided. He was pushed into, not in a illegal way. It was not a penalty or anything like that, but pushed by Trent Williams, the 49ers offensive tackle, into Leighton's teammate Micah Parsons, and the way his neck and head kind of crunched down, it didn't look good at all. They also, most of the guys last night when they left, they didn't go to the locker room. They headed up the tunnel towards the x-ray room. So disappointing for Leighton. And then with C.J. Goodwin, he actually went back in for a play, tried to get through with that. First we thought it was a shoulder injury. Now we know pectoral, but wasn't able to finish the game. He was out from the second quarter through the remainder of the game. And so very disappointing because he is your special teams ace.
Just got some good news, though, right? Cavante Turpin, at least we assume that it's good news for now. I know Mac McCarthy was saying that he should be in practice this week, but he'll be kind of keeping an eye out on him. But, yeah, losing a guy like him, that would actually add more to the fire if they do lose out on Cavante Turpin. But I think that that's actually some really good news for this offense, especially with the dawning schedule they do have coming over the next 3-4 games. So
yeah,
absolutely. Another batch of injury news was we talked about Dak Prescott off to the side with Mike, and he said he's good, nothing to worry about there.
His finger got stepped on, and so he had a bandage over his. I won't hold up my middle finger, but it was his middle finger.
Don't do that.
It was his middle finger, and they did a tape job and bandage around that. That happened earlier in the game.
Absolutely. So good there. And other than that, those are really the three was Terp, CJ, and Leighton that Mike talked about. Other than that,
Tyler
Biadasz, he said he's working through everything still, and he's hopeful that he's available for Monday's game.
He missed part of one series. Ironically, it was the only offensive series that resulted in a touchdown, but turned his ankle, had it wrapped up, and re-entered the game. But they will obviously keep a watchful eye on that, and as Mike said, hopefully he can practice and be ready for next Monday.
Donovan, he did mention that Dono is good. He didn't really go into a lot of specifics about Dono.
He got it. It was good news though, because
he said it was good news. There was a couple of things that they were working through to figure out, but he should be. He's hopeful. But we'll leave it at that. He's hopeful.
What happened with that is that was late in the fourth quarter. He got his ankle rolled, and so in the blue medical tent. They had taken off the shoe. They had, checked out his ankle and his foot, and then they put the shoe back on. So that was, good. He obviously was not going to re-enter the game because at that point in the fourth quarter, they had already taken out a lot of the starters and the backups were in. So he was not going to re-enter the game anyway.
Well, we hope the best for all of these guys. Just an already very deflating loss that just keeps pounding at the Dallas Cowboys and their health. So wishing all the best for all these guys. And it's never easy to see a teammate, a brother go down, especially with these scary injuries. And it's just such a reminder of how delicate this game can be in such a short time's notice. Let's get into this game, ladies. There's a lot to unpack here. And I would say we could go through the good, the bad, the ugly. But it was just ugly and bad.
Very ugly.
Let's be blunt with it. It was very ugly, very bad, and so let's unpack it and let's go through it. Aisha, I know we talked on the phone earlier today, and you said, "Lord, I do not want to go through this tape."
It hurt.
I'm sure it hurt a second time going through it.
How bad did it hurt?
It was very
Really
bad.
bad?
It was a little painful. Let's go through what are some of the things. Initial thoughts that you have. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball. Let's start with the defense. We'll work our way to the offense in the second half of the show. Starting with the defense, initial thoughts. What kind of was the domino that set the domino effect off?
The pre-snap penalties. I mean, honestly, and there obviously were some post-snap, but on that first drive, I mean, Donovan Wilson comes in. He feels perfectly, but he gets a hold of McCaffrey's face mask. It's 15 yards. And then a couple plays later, Cowboys have him in a 3-and-out situation. J-Ron Curse.
Yep.
Unnecessary roughness. And they go down there and get 7. And that really kind of set the tone. Now, I felt like the defense in spots, they had their good plays, and they held it together as long as they could, I want to say. It was 7-0 at the end of the first, and you were just like, how is this happening?
It felt a lot worse than that.
It felt a lot worse, but they played stout. They played stout in certain spots, but J-Ron Curse said last week about the Cardinals, and then we asked him, what was the problem? He said their will was stronger than theirs. And that's kind of how it was this past game, is that the 49ers were just kind of out-physicaled them. They just really, really took it to them in so many different areas. And I don't know, man. I was floored kind of going back and looking because it just wasn't to the standard we've seen them play. And it also seemed like there was some confusion sometimes on the back end and things like that, too.
I think that unnecessary roughness call was actually like the turning point of this game.
It was a huge deal.
It was a huge turning point. And you think about it, you're on believe it was 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5.
3rd and 4.
You get that call, 3rd and 4, you get that call, and now, you know what I'm saying, you get a whole new set of downs. So it's like, at that point, you got to play clean football. You got to play clean football. And I just think that this team, like you said, has not. I'm trying to say it as nice as possible, but it was. We gotta try to say it as nice as possible. There's so much talent on this team that when you're playing like this, so uncharacteristic, and you have a standard of this whole franchise. I think it's honestly ridiculous, And it was kind of like disappointing for me because it's like you have so much faith in this team. And I know Cowboys Nation was a little hurt about this as well. But, yeah, you got to play clean football in situations like that.
Yeah. The disappointing thing for me is not necessarily losing to a team that is the class not only of the NFC but of the NFL. I mean, there's no shame in that. But what's disappointing to me is that there were no excuses entering this game. Yep. It's not like 2 weeks ago where you say, we're without 3 of our starting offensive linemen. This and going in, we overlooked the Cardinals. It's nothing like that. Coaches, ownership, players talked about this being a measuring stick game. Mm-hmm. And that's what you come out with, So that's to me what was very disappointing is that everybody knew it was on the line, and it really was pretty evenly matched. Other than Trayvon Diggs, right, and other than Peyton Hendershot being out, he was really the only guy out with injury. Mm-hmm. These were your guys, and San Francisco put it to you.
Yeah,
I think what was the most disappointing to watch was how the fight was just sucked out of these guys so quickly. It was it was the third quarter when you really saw it. They had a fighting chance going in out of the half, right? And you could see the fight. And then it was just penalty after penalty. And then after a while, it was like, okay, I'm not fighting anymore.
Well,
it felt like the big kid at lunch that kept beating you up. And they had a chance to stand up and hit back and say, look, you're not going to beat me up anymore. And they didn't.
Yeah.
And when you're getting bullied to that extent, you either fight back or you stand back. And they stood back. And the dominoes fell after that, but penalties, guys, you're talking 6 penalties for 60 yards in this game. Yes, the 49ers also had 6 penalties for 45 yards. It was the timing of the penalties that killed you here.
It was big third downs.
Big third down
downs.
penalties that just said, here you go downfield and score with this. And so, to me, it's the lack of discipline. And it was, Christy, I'm so glad you brought that up. The loss to the Cardinals. There were so many things working against the Cowboys. You could say, okay,
self-inflicted wounds, and injuries,
same things that happened in that Cardinals game that lost you this game tenfold. The same things, self-inflicted wounds with penalties. You're talking lack of discipline, and then at the end of the day, like, it just didn't seem like everybody was on the same page again.
I just want to say, I don't want to say lack of discipline. Mm-hmm. Let's credit the 49ers here.
Oh, for sure.
And the way that they scheme some of these, the way that they get those, the way they get those matchups, and you put the safety or you put the defensive back in a situation, or someone like Marquise Bell, a young guy who's dropping into coverage and all that, they are putting them in situations where they have to make a decision. And Brock Purdy, oh, wow, did he have an outstanding game. And you take away, the Cowboys did a good job against McCaffrey overall, but guess what? You take him away, and it opens up everything else. So I just want to be with the lack of, and then at the end, you're right, Jess, it totally got away from him. Now, late third quarter, fourth quarter, that's when the turnovers happened and when the score really, really got out of hand. But, let's credit the 49ers as well.
Yeah, I wanted to add on. Did you have some?
Break.
Okay,
I was like, yep, we got to take a break.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to continue this discussion. We're also going to get into the Cowboys offense, a little bit of what Mike McCarthy said there, what we noticed from the sidelines from Christy, and we'll get into that discussion. Stay with us. This is Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
To Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're getting into more Dallas Cowboys 49ers matchup and post-game discussion. But first, check out the latest and greatest addition to tours at AT&T Stadium and at the Store in Frisco. Meet Jerry Jones, an interactive experience. Get a peek behind the curtain and into the fascinating life of Jerry Jones with a focus on innovative fan experience. In partnership with AT&T, this interactive technology gives tourgoers the opportunity to ask Mr. Jones a variety of questions. For more information and to book your tour, visit DallasCowboys.com/tours.
I'm sorry, I was trying to hold that cookie in. But
you know what? Eat your sorrows away, girl. You literally.
It's so good.
It's well deserved today. You're good. Aisha, let's jump back into the conversation that we cut off at there from the last break. We had to take our break. We're back now. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Christy was just giving credit to the 49ers and just how well they were schemed on both sides of the ball. And I wanted to add on to that because I think that is what hurt me the most coming out of this game, is to hear the players say, we were confident in our preparation. We were confident in this game plan. And then that's what it was. Because to me, none of the things that we talked about all this week, I mean, we watch film around here, right, ladies? Like we do. We get into the depths of things. And a lot of the things that you would think they would take advantage of and do towards the 49ers offensively, they did not do. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that is disheartening for me. And I'm at a point as far as like how much I analyze is, let's wait and see. Just because this is, Mike McCarthy mentioned today, like this is such a different, the scores in every game and just how everything's transpired is something he's never seen before, the inconsistency. And for me, I mean, it's so hard to evaluate this team at this point in time because of the inconsistency. And I think I'm the most disappointed that they said that was the game plan that they were proud of and excited about. And then offensively, they didn't attack the way that you would think that they were going to.
Yeah, well, one thing that Mike said towards the end of his press conference was they were expecting more man coverage and they were getting more zone. They knew it would be a vision defense and things like that. But you still need to, hey, you don't always get what
you
you're
gotta have a counter.
Yeah.
What's the counter?
But the problem, just not getting in bad down and distance, a few penalties setting them back, things like that. So, he also mentioned with the third down conversion through the first 4 weeks of the season, they're number one in the league, and then fail to convert on third downs for the most part yesterday, and then losing the battle for field position, things like that. So these aren't excuses; these are reasons. But you put it all together, and with the way the San Francisco play,
Christy, she's going to jump over the table.
No, I'm listening to her. No, I'm listening to her. It's just I don't know. It's frustrating, especially too like. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. But just the 49ers, they run a lot of zone.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they don't change who they are that often. And so it's just like, and like they play against the Cowboys, they're going to throw out some wrenches. They're going to throw out some things or whatever. But it just was like, it just felt like another year of them looking less prepared on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm not sure if that's the case. Like I said, I'm not sure. They said they were comfortable with their preparation. I mean, it's
disappointing.
Like
they one thing that Jerry Jones said in the pregame show, the owner's box, and something that they talked about last week was being more aggressive, right? And so offensively, not just the way playing defense and getting after the receivers and things like that, but they did take more shots down the field. The only one that really succeeded was the touchdown pass to Cavante Turpin, right? Yep. That was a heck of a play. Great adjustment. Outside shoulder and the way he turned. That was a fantastic play. But the couple to Brandon Cooks, that last one that was intercepted. Michael Gallup missed a couple of times. It was just off.
Yeah. I think that you're throwing balls downfield, yes, but at the wrong time. And then they're not good balls. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like they would have had a lot of more success running the football, like that one drive that was capped off by the Cavante Turpin touchdown. You're moving the ball well. You're getting the ball in the right playmaker's hands, and things like that. That is, I guess, the approach they should have taken. And I think they kind of went away with that, if that makes sense.
I also think it was interesting to see kind of how early the run game was kind of pivoted away from. And it happened early on, right? And look, you want to depend on your weapons on the receiving side. You want to depend on a CeeDee Lamb and a Jake Ferguson. It's just they couldn't get out of the 3-and-out fits, guys. I mean, they didn't have a chance to even get to the red zone. The only time they were close was the Turpin touchdown, and they weren't even in the red zone for that.
Did they?
So it's like you're talking about red zone production the last couple of weeks. Okay. You didn't even have a chance to get to the red zone during this game.
Field position. Boy, they sure lost that field position battle.
It was not there. And then you even talk about third downs during this game. Cowboys were 4 of 11 with third downs, which Mike McCarthy talked about today. And again, self-inflicted wounds is really the product of what you're seeing here. When you're looking at rushing yards for this Cowboys offense, let's see, 57 total rushing yards. Your longest run came from a 10-yard run from Tony Pollard. Receiving yards, you had 161 receiving yards. Your longest reception here was a 29-yard reception to CeeDee. And another big conversation that's being had is ball distribution again. I think it was so interesting to hear Mike talk about how he's comfortable with the ball distribution and kind of where it's been. But what you've seen is that hasn't been consistent for these guys. You haven't seen a consistent playmaking threat throughout these games. CeeDee Lamb only having 5 targets, 4 receptions for 49 yards in this game. He was frustrated after the game. Christy, you got to hear from him.
He was frustrated during the game too.
Yeah, you could see it, yeah.
I think that's a little overblown what people are saying about some sideline kind of thing. Hey, that's when you have a game like that and the offense isn't playing well. That's nobody's happy down there.
Right.
Okay, so let's. I think that's a little overblown. But honestly, with the ball distribution, you only had 49 plays on offense. It's because you couldn't sustain anything. Oh, and then you were allowing long drives to the 49ers offense, and they were controlling the clock. And the pace of the game, and so again, not excuses, but reasons. But hey, when it was going to CeeDee Lamb and he was getting 10 catches in the game, what were we saying? Got to get the ball to Michael Gallup. Got to get the ball to Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
So
I think
Feature your best players, man.
Yeah.
Like, you feature them. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, Aisha, how do you start with untangling this web on the offense that you saw? What is the first step you take in untangling this very weaved web that it feels like a stack of jewelry that you kind of throw in a pile, and then after a while you're like, I want that necklace, and you're reaching under and you're like, oh shoot, and you pick it up and it's like a ball of necklaces.
Yeah.
How do you get to that end game there? How do you start to untangle it? Because it feels like every week the Cowboys have kind of thrown different issues that all tie together in this little pot, and they're trying to reach out and say, okay, well, how do we fix this now? And you're kind of holding this weaved web of confusion and miscommunication. Where do you start with that?
Well, for starters, the offensive line getting some togetherness is going to be important. There were their fair share of mistakes, but I felt like they held up okay. When you have a game where you can't run the ball, you need to be able to pass, because there are going to be some teams that can defend the run well. And with that being said, the lack of vertical play on this offense is killing this offense, because when you go up against a team that has linebackers that can run sideline to sideline, tackle physically, and be on time, then that means that you have to be able to get them to pump the brakes, back up a little bit, respect what you can do downfield. And to your point, Nicole, like you talked about the deep balls. Yeah, they happened, but did they have purpose?
Nope.
Were they set up?
No.
What was going on there? And so it's right now they just need to help each other, because the play calling is very much so working the intermediate game, but they're not touching the middle of the field, and that's a problem, because that's how people are beating you, is attacking the middle of the field. And so for me, it's the lack of verticalness and, being able to push the ball downfield in any capacity consistently. DBs, these secondaries, they don't care. They are literally sitting on everything. They are literally begging you to keep passing underneath, because that's going to make you, they're betting on the fact you're going to make a mistake. Because even though the Cowboys are good they have been good, they have been good against other defenses, but not the best. And moving the ball down the field and being methodical, they're going to keep playing you tight like this. And so for me, it's opening up the playbook from the receiving aspect, causing some conflict, playing guys open, scheming guys open, because it's going to be days like this, man. This is what happens when you play against some of the best. And then also, too, there needs to be some cohesiveness on that side of the ball to play together and do things that are helpful for everyone that's involved in it, because it just was bad. And your quarterback got to be better too. He's gonna have to make some. I need him to make some business decisions at the line of scrimmage when he sees that this is not favorable. And I just so for me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to fuss, but it was. To me, this offense is not being run in a way that is gonna. It's going to keep this is going to keep happening until they break that and get respect from other defenses from that standpoint. My bad, y'all. I was not trying to go hard like that.
Go hard.
Time on task is really going to help, particularly with the line, finally, hopefully
Getting
there's some
together,
continuity.
hopefully that helps out.
If Tyler has to miss some practice time this week because of the ankle, that's not going to help. But the good news is, and we should mention that Mike McCarthy said that they're changing the process of evaluation this week, and part of it is because, remember, there's a Monday night game next week, so beneficial in a couple ways. We got a lot of guys banged up, and so it's an extra day for them to recover and hopefully be able to play next Monday, followed by the bye week, so time to get healthy.
It's a good time.
That's a good time, but the other thing is, we talk about the 24-hour rule, right? 24 hours to celebrate or to put a bad loss behind you. So Mondays is spent evaluating what happened the day before, good or bad. This week, they're extending that by about 48 hours. So players have Tuesday off. On Wednesday, which normally is working ahead to the upcoming game, that's going to be spent on corrections from the San Francisco game. So a different pattern this week.
I think that it should help if you're extending that evaluation process, but you have to make the right use of it. You know what I'm saying? Mike McCarthy was saying that, we got to ask the right questions to figure out how to move forward. Well, you got to ask the questions that might hurt, because you got to keep it real in these situations. And so, there's a lot of ball left, but I feel like you got to make use of this time in the right way rather than just saying, okay, we're going to sit down, evaluate, and take until Wednesday, an extra 2 days to evaluate the process. But you got to ask the right questions and fix these issues now before it gets down.
Yeah, and he did mention taking the emotion out of it, because they're still stinging. Guys, I'm telling you, that was about as somber a locker room, and certainly one of the more somber charter flights home that we've had in a while. I thought coming home from Phoenix was pretty somber. Of course, it was an overnight flight, and most people are sleeping anyway. But it was going to be quite that was. Not a fun
experience
back end of the road trip.
Oof. Well, I want to bring up a point here, because going into this game, a lot of the questions to the guys were, does this feel like a playoff game? And on this end of things, they said, yeah, it feels like we're getting ready for a playoff game. A lot of guys just had a lot to prove, not just to the world, but to themselves for this game. And I think internally, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and either it's a make or break, and obviously you saw what came out of it during the game. After the game, Kyle Shanahan was talking, and he was talking about kind of how the 49ers prepared for the week. And he said, quote, just watching them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they were all so locked in all week, they didn't make too big of a deal of this game. They seemed ready to go. So from a coaching perspective, we didn't feel like we had to do much all week, but just coach them, show them the film, put the game plan in, and our guys were ready. So it kind of just feels like on this side of the ball for the Cowboys, maybe they got in their heads a little bit. I mean, really, when it's hard not to, when you're media hyping this, oh, this is your dragon to slay, this is the game, this is the playoffs in October. How do you not get in your head about that and then get down on yourself a little bit more than you usually would if things aren't going your way and your plan's not working against them? I mean, it's one of those things where I think time is going to tell how they come back from this adversity. I don't think this necessarily defines them as a team. You're still in week 5.
Right.
Like, let's be real with that, too. Yeah. It's barely week 5. There's a lot of season left to go. But I thought that was a little interesting nugget from Shanahan.
You can't let this one loss turn into 2.
Yep. You can't.
Emotionally. And again, the injuries that came out of this, I'm more concerned about the injuries and how you're going to fortify the depth at those positions, particularly linebacker.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's a good conversation, because we're going to do that in the next break.
And the conversation that is happening right now is Mike McCarthy with Will McClay.
Yeah.
Mike told us that as soon as the press conference was over, he's going over to personnel, and they're going to meet.
You about to talk about the defense a little bit more?
Yep, we're going to talk about the defense here in our next segment. Stick with us. We're going to take our last break. When we come back, we're talking about the defense. Dan Quinn is actually talking right now, so we're going to get into a little bit of what he said there about the linebackers. Stick with us. This is Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Welcome back to our final segment of Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to get into some Cowboys defense. We're actually looking at them right now on the screen. But first, Dallas Cowboys Game Time, powered by Lenovo, the official gaming platform and community of the Dallas Cowboys. Sign up to compete in Madden 24 for a chance to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the 2023 Dallas Cowboys home game. Qualifiers begin on October 6th and will run through the 13th. Learn more and register at DallasCowboys.com. Okay. All right. Let's get into some Cowboys defense. We're getting some tweets from Dan Quinn, who was in his press conference about 15 minutes ago. John Machota tweeting out that, according to Dan Quinn, he said if Leighton Vander Esch is out for an extended period of time, Micah Parsons could see more time at linebacker.
Yep. Which
just makes sense. I mean, I think that's kind of what we all figured. So let's get into that. Christy, I know you brought up you're concerned about the ripple effect these injuries from this game have. And Leighton Vander Esch is a big loss on the defense if he's not able to play for an extended period of time, which it sounds like that will be the case with that neck injury. Let's start there, and then we'll untangle our very weaved mess.
Yeah, it's not just his production; it's his communication skills, right? As the guy who relays the plays from Dan Quinn to his teammates in the huddle and helping make sure guys get lined up. Now, of course, he missed the 3 games last year with the neck stinger, and guys like J-Ron Curse and Malik Hooker, Dono, guys like that can step up and fill a good part of that void, but. Man, Malik Jefferson was elevated from the practice squad over the weekend and ended up finishing the 4th quarter and had been playing special teams. So he has had 2 of his 3 practice squad elevations. So unless they bring in someone from outside, make a trade or something, I would think that you would take Malik and put him on the 53-man roster as something that is immediate this week.
I would be looking to
make a move.
Yeah. If you've got to make a move. To hold this defense together for what it is right now, I would definitely be looking to make a move there at linebacker.
And the thing about Micah, the position, not the same as what Leighton does, right?
Yeah.
So, and then Marquise Bell, who has been a defensive back but gets moved to linebacker this year, and I think they nothing against him, but I think they exploited some of his inexperience yesterday. Sure. That's not slight. They exploited a lot of people yesterday.
Yeah. Experience or not, a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's the thing. That's what the 49ers do.
Yes.
That's what they do.
Absolutely.
That's why they are the best, if not one of the best teams in the league right now. That's why they are where they are, because they're able to expose your playmakers.
Yeah. If we do lose Leighton, let's say that happens, which is looking like we are, Damone Clark, he's not even on that roster. He's on the roster, but I'm saying he didn't play. You know what I'm saying? So what does that do for Damone, a guy like Damone, and how should he step up in that situation?
Yeah. He got snaps. Yeah. So he had been battling a shoulder injury, and so the good news was he was able to get past that. And so I think he's had a very good year.
Yeah.
He had an outstanding camp, and so. But again, he plays next to Leighton. So it's not.
It's not the same.
And basically what Micah had done previously before going down to concentrate on defensive end.
What I think is interesting, though, about Damone is him and Leighton have a very close relationship. They've worked together from their injury history, and they've formed this really close bond together. Damone's told me about how Leighton would go in with him in the rehab groups, and every rehab session that he had, Leighton would just go sit in there with him when he was working back from his injury. And so him and Leighton have a really good communication. He talked about this big brother-esque type of relationship that they had. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but that Leighton would say, well, Sean Lee did it for me, and so I'm doing it for you now because that's just what you do around here. And so I thought that was a really cool analogy when he mentioned that. But I almost wonder, because Mike McCarthy, they're still in the process of figuring out what happens, where these injuries kind of take the team from here, what's going on. And he was asked about, well, who would be the communicator on the defensive side of the ball if Leighton's out, and he doesn't know yet. He said, we're figuring things out.
Well, it would be J-Ron or Malik, and it's possible that Damone could do it if Malik's going to start. So what happens is there are 3 players that are designated with radio helmets, we call them green dots, and so 3 defensive players, so it's Leighton Vander Esch, J-Ron Curse, and Malik Hooker. That's how it's been all year. Only one of them can wear it on the field at a time. So when Leighton's out there, Malik and J-Ron are wearing their non-green dot helmets, since only one is allowed on the field. And so, again, J-Ron and Malik in the past have worn that and been able to communicate, but still, that's from a safety position and not right in the middle of the defense at linebacker.
Well, if you're going with this next man up as far as youth mentality that you've seen throughout the team from the course of the last 5 weeks, act like it's been forever, but it feels like it. These 5 weeks have been long. Do you see Damone Clark being a guy that could have
possibly,
a green dot?
Sure. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, absolutely.
Aisha, how do you feel now with this linebacker core being as stiff as it is, where it's at, the ripple effect, and some other aspects that you noticed from watching the game back that need to be shored up this week?
I don't know if it's something that can be shored up, but I was surprised at the lack of pressure that the Cowboys defensive line was able to get. I mean, there were plenty of times that Purdy took deep drops, 7-step drops, and I'm like, what? How are they just doing this? That was an element of the game that surprised me a lot. I expected for the Cowboys to exploit that right side of that offensive line that is statistically and even watching film had a hard time, and they just played them very stout for the most part, and that surprised me. That surprised me a lot. And then obviously it's a trickle down effect because that leaves your linebackers out there naked, and it's just and then you see, I saw a couple times Malik Hooker being the last person to make the tackle. So the linebackers being shored up and us figuring out what's going on there is going to be important moving forward because teams are attacking you at the edges more than anything at this point. And so you need linebackers that can move sideline to sideline and make tackles and not put so much pressure on your corners or safeties to have to do that. That is what the linebacker is for. We saw that yesterday from Fred Warner and Greenlaw.
Did they have a great game. Fred Warner.
They're too good, bro.
My gosh.
They're too good. But I will say, there were times listen, one positive. Tyler Smith is a baller. Oh, yeah. Tyler Smith, he matched their intensity when he saw them, when he saw opportunities. And I was like, okay, I see you, Tyler. That is one of my only positives.
The league saw him, too, at the end with that penalty, and he's going to get a little fine this week. I'm predicting
Tyler?
that. Oh, yeah.
Shake that jar.
Oh, yeah.
Shake that jar.
Oh, yeah, maybe we'll have him put it in here. No, actually, when players just... FYI, kind of not a fun fact, because if you're the one paying the fine, it's not fun at all. But when players are fined by the league for things like taunting or personal fouls or things like that, or even for uniform infractions, when a player pays a fine to the league, it goes to NFL charities, which are, over the past several years, been mainly to former players' funds. And so, anyway, it can add up. It can add up.
He pushed him out the club. He put him out the club. What happened?
Well, at the very end, Tyler Smith got the penalty at the end, late in the fourth quarter, for the personal foul. So, right? Didn't he at the end?
Did he?
Yeah, I thought so.
There was so many.
At that point, I was
emotionally. I think
articles. I was like,
yeah. He was going after one of the. Well,
here, I'll tell you.
I didn't think he punt. I didn't think that he was first. I thought that it was, but anyway. But he's the one that got the flag.
Oh, I didn't know.
And so he's going to probably get the fine, unfortunately.
Well, self-inflicted wounds. What can we say?
To your own pocketbook.
There we go. Hey, okay, Aisha, I like this little trend you started. We have a couple minutes left. Let's get some positives. Let's try here, guys. And that sounds mean, But I know of one that Aisha would love to talk about. That was Jonathan Hankins. And
Oh, yeah, Big Dog played.
Big Hank. And those swatted balls, thank God for those big hands. Really. Like, that set the tone early. And that's why
help.
that got the defense back in the fight, because there was a swatted ball, by Hank, two by Hank, and then there were, who else was it? Somebody else had one that I wrote down.
Here's
I
the
can't read it.
problem. Your defensive tackle led the defense in passes defensed yesterday.
There you go.
I don't even.
Okay.
Come on, Christy. That one
And on a
hurt,
positive
Christy.
note.
That
And
one
on a
hurt, though.
positive note.
Oh, it's
here.
a positive for Jonathan. No, those were important at the beginning of the game. Here's the thing: you're not always gonna get to the quarterback. So as soon as they, stop you short and you see them start to release the ball, what's the number one thing you got to do? Get your hands up. And so good for Jonathan with those two
What's yours,
passes batted.
What's yours, Nicole? What's yours? I ain't said mine yet, technically. Just said Hank is for me.
Honestly,
I'll let you take that one. I have another one.
honestly, my only positive is that KT touchdown, his second offensive touchdown of the season. I mean, nothing really positive came from that game other than Jonathan Hankins, KT.
Brandon.
That was a rough
Aubrey.
one. Okay, well,
It was a
yeah, that's
positive.
expected. That's always expected out of him.
It should be.
That's honestly it for me. I mean, it was such a disappointing loss.
Sorry, the game's on, and I'm like, wow.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
It looks worse watching it
looks
a second
worse.
time than
It
it was
does.
from the sideline last night. It's like, ooh.
It was rough to watch. It was
Yeah.
very rough to watch for a team of this caliber that has so many, good pieces that can succeed, help this team succeed. So, that's my positive, man.
What's yours, Christy?
Yeah, I was going to say Turpin's touchdown, just outside shot. It was a good throw and great adjustment. That's hard because usually you're looking over going down the right sideline. He's looking on the outside. That was a really, really well done. And the thing is, after Turpin went out, you lose your return specialist. So Rico Dowdle was your kickoff returner, and then Deuce Vaughn on the punt return. So I would imagine it would be that moving forward. But what was disappointing was that the Cowboys on special teams weren't able to take advantage of something that we don't see a lot in the NFL anymore because they keep changing the rules, and that's to make it harder to get more kickoff returns, right?
Yeah.
And so the Cowboys knew Jake Moody, the rookie kicker, the third-round pick for the 49ers. He hasn't missed on any field goals, but he doesn't have a booming leg on kickoff. So they knew that they would have a chance for kickoff returns in this game. Also, kicking towards the north end of the field, there was a pretty heavy breeze coming in, so that ball was really getting knocked down by the wind, and so it was landing 9, 12-yard line, that kind of thing, but the Cowboys weren't able to get any big returns and help in that field position battle.
I'd say, y'all, I'm so upset. So I'd say,
Let it out. Just let it
I'd
out.
say that my lone positive is that it is indeed week 5.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of football left. It's either we gonna suffer or it's gonna be good. And so for me, I had to remind myself, I even tweeted it, like, it's just week 5, because it feels bigger. Like, it feels big. But my only positive is that it is week 5 and that they can regroup and they can figure things out. No, Mike McCarthy talked about them kumbaya and whatnot. So I hope that they figure out what it is, the things that they need to fix, and how they got to come together. Because, baby, we got 3 months.
Kumbaya is
Not
crazy.
over the kumbaya. Well,
It's my bad, y'all. It's military. Is this? Don't
the
people say?
thing. I haven't.
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah, but
You're
they got
exactly
time
right.
to, huddle together and figure things out. But
Yeah.
we got 3 more months of on the job, on duty. So let's figure it out.
Well, my positive is that it's over, and we can turn the page starting tomorrow, and we will get into this discussion a little bit more tomorrow, and then we'll start turning the page as the week goes on, because of course the Dallas Cowboys will face the Chargers on Monday.
Oh, I can't wait to see Justin Herbert.
It's going to be a fun one. So, look, there's some.
I
there's
do.
some
I
stuff we can
love
get
great
into.
quarterback play, and
We know this.
But Brock Purdy, wow, he was awesome
good.
yesterday. You know,
He's
you got
good.
to
He
tip your
played
cap. That
pretty well,
was-
if you ask me.
It
Oh
takes
my gosh, we almost got through the.
it takes skill to do that.
Get ready, Jazzy. Here we go. Cha-ching.
It does.
Dang.
It
Thank
takes
you.
skill, girl.
All
He
right.
played a good game.
Well, let's end on that note. Like I said, tomorrow when we come back, we're going to discuss this a little bit more in detail. We didn't even get into special teams today, so we'll get into that tomorrow. The impacts of possibly not having C.J. Goodwin for an extended period of time. We'll ask around, see what we find out in the meantime, a little bit more about these injuries, see what we can get you. But in the meantime, try to enjoy the rest of your day, Cowboys Nation. We appreciate you. We love you. Stay safe, and we will see you back here tomorrow. For Christy, Nicole, Aisha, and Jess, this has been Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!